Welcome to our continuing series, Explorations in Savitri, with our beloved Alok. Well, today, Book 2, the Book of the Traveler of the Worlds, we begin the last canto, Canto 15, The Kingdoms of the Greater Knowledge.
Actually, this canto and the first canto of Book 3, it is a canto where knowledge sleeps in blissful silence. So one doesn't know what to speak about it. But one thing which we witnessed last time when Shobindo, at the conclusion of the previous canto, that the World Mother on one side gives him worlds and he could pick and choose any of them or all of them. Or at the same time, she opens the other arm for him to pass into eternity, because one arm half parted the eternal veil. The interesting part is Ashupati does not choose either of them, he just surrenders and gives himself to Mother. It's a very beautiful key. Repeatedly we see that such a great tapasvi at the end of the journey, when he could have asked the kingdoms, all the great worlds, to rule them, or he could have asked to pass away into the silence beyond. He just offers his heart, his aspiration. We read that last few lines just to remind. He cast from the rent stillness of his soul a cry of adoration and desire, and the surrender of his boundless mind, and the self-giving of his silent heart. He fell down at her feet, unconscious, prone. So this self-giving, repeatedly we find, and Ashupati does that, and perhaps that is the reason he gets both. Sri was a master siddha of all the worlds. At the same time, he knows all that is in the eternal. It's a very rare. So, the arm that had parted the eternal veil, obviously now he has the passage, the permission, he has been allowed, granted to pass into the beyond. But as you pass into the beyond, there is a door or a lid, as is described, between the lower and the higher hemisphere, the golden lid of Isha Upanishad. And the greater knowledge is at the golden lid, where on one side there is the overmind and everything which is below. On the other hand, up above is the supramental and all those realms which for the human mind are unknowable. You cannot enter there with any of the conceptions, systems, anything. You have to cast out all of them. So Ashupati stands, there has to be complete annihilation of the ego. So Ashupati stands on this gate, if you may use the word gates of the supermind, and he experiences, what that experience is amazing. Actually, there is very little that can be spoken about it. We start, after a measureless moment of the soul, again returning to these surface fields, out of the timeless depths where he had sunk, he heard once more the slow tread of the hours. So this moment, this experience is stamped for eternity. It is a measureless moment. It's not that how long was he face to face. A moment is enough. And I remember a very beautiful little interchange which Asma Bhai once told me. He said he was thinking of coming here, and he had only one day in hand, or maybe a few hours. And he spoke to Shaben, and he was saying that I'm thinking of coming, but I have just one day, so I'm wondering. So she said, even if you can come for a few hours and be at the Samadhi.
Yes.
This measureless moment of the soul also reminds me of a very beautiful little prayer of the Mother. A few minutes passed in silence before thee are worth centuries of felicity. So this is the measureless moment. You can't measure it in any way, quantitatively, qualitatively, either ways.
Yes.
So Ashupati has gone through that moment when he has come in contact with the Divine Mother. But these 4 lines also remind us that this does not transform the nature. So when he comes back to the surface field, he comes back to all that is there. Even we'll see that even in book 3.
And the next 2 lines, yes.
All once perceived and lived was far away. Himself was to himself his only seen. So he is in some depth of the cosmic consciousness. He's identified with the cosmic spirit. And that's where he is right now. Above the witness and his universe, he stood in a realm of boundless silences, awaiting the voice that spoke and built the worlds. This voice will come much later. Here he doesn't hear that voice. He stands on the edge. That line will come much later where he'll say, even as he stood on being's naked edge. It comes in book 3, Canto 2. So this is the being's naked edge. One step on the other side and it's all finished. Sri Ramakrishna would say that those who walk on that wall, if they were to tilt to the other side, ha kore gire pade, they just vanish. There is nothing, no coming back, no nothing, no report. So he stands on this edge. He stood in a realm of boundless silences, awaiting the voice that spoke and built the worlds. A light was round him, wide and absolute. He is experiencing now the touch of the supramental light, which is beginning to envelop him. A diamond purity of eternal sight. So the word diamond always comes with the supermind. That's Sri Aurobindo spoke of diamond as the symbol of the supermind. And he describes the supermind as hard as a diamond in its solidity and consistency. At the same time, it's absolutely plastic. He speaks of that these two seemingly opposite he speaks about the supramental substance. And it's so intense. That's why perhaps, diamonds are regarded as, even physically on earth, they are symbols they are the deepest gems which are lying in the bowels of the earth, just like the supermind, which is hidden deep inside and is slowly emerging. At the same time, it is found there in the upper hemisphere. A consciousness lays still, devoid of forms. So Mother at one place describes it as the border between the form and the formless. On the borders of formlessness. A new force must be evoked from the frontiers of form, from the borders of formlessness. So that's where he stands. Free, wordless, uncoerced by sign or rule, forever content with only being and bliss. A sheer existence lived in its own peace, on the single spirit's bare and infinite ground. So here we see actually the finite entering into the infinite. Of course, one can enter into the infinite through other doors. From the mind, one can leap into it. Very often when people do it, they lose their mind because all the measures are gone and their behavior can become very chaotic. It's known thing. Some of the Zen Buddhists do that. Yes. But Sri Aurobindo is not taking that road. He is not leaping into the glad divine abyss. He is taking the road of ascension so that the nature becomes more and more purified and ready. When he is suddenly in the blaze of the infinite consciousness, it doesn't just shatter. So this is where we see that he is entering into the infinite from another vantage point. Out of this sphere of mind he had arisen. He had left the reign of nature's hues and shades. He dwelt in his self's colorless purity. This is important, this ascension, because sometimes you hear people say logical mind. The upper hemisphere contains supermind, Sat, Chit, Ananda, or if you want to put it that way, Ananda, Chit and Sat. And there have been yogis who have experienced Satchidanand. So what's the big deal about supermind? You can experience Satchidanand at any level. Mother explains, Satchidanand is like gaps in the ladder. So one can leap even from the physical body into Sachidanand. One can leap from the vital into Sachidanand. One can leap from any of the levels of the mind that we have read into Sachidanand. But that misses the key. So if you leap from there, you have a sharp antagonism between the experience of Sachidanand and the nature as we experience it here. So the measures fall and fail and one enters into a chaotic state because it doesn't matter, you have discovered the one. But it's only when you go through the supermind then that you find the key between the one, Sachidanand, and all the realms which are below. So that's why we see this ascension is important. Otherwise, if it was just about experiencing Sachidanand, Sri Aurobindo could have, he had experienced it. Even working in full consciousness of the Sachidanand is a little like that. So that's why this ascension is so important. And of course, the subsequent descent. It was a plane of undetermined spirit. It is that plane where all the possibilities are there and the spirit could take any of them. Sri Aurobindo describes this beautifully in evening talks. So he says it's a plane where there are numerous possibilities but nothing has been fixed. The moment it fixes, that's when the imperative supermind comes in. And then we see that it follows a certain line. So it's a plane of undetermined spirit. There are countless, infinite possibilities. Like the 1,000-petal lotus and any of the line of advance it could take. That could be a zero or round sum of things, a state in which all ceased and all began. And when Sri Aurobindo speaks of his will for different aspects, like India and Pakistan will become one, and so on and so forth, and the new humanity, he speaks from that poise. Meaning thereby, by identifying with that state, he has actually taken one line, given it a, if you may use the word push, in a certain direction. So it is going to be like that. Nothing can stop it because that's where actually the spirit decides and chooses. The moment it makes a choice, then the rest follows inevitably. It doesn't matter how many years, centuries, decades or millennium it takes. But that is something which is decided. All it became that figures the absolute, a high vast peak whence spirit could see the worlds, calm's wide epiphany, wisdom's mute home, a lonely station of omniscience, a diving board of the eternal's power, a white floor in the house of all delight. So all Satchitananda, they are all there, but they are experienced in this way. So you have the all power, Chittapas. You have also the pure existence which is there in this white floor, oneness. Yes. But this oneness is yet to cast itself into multiplicity, delight, ananda. So we have this beautiful description of Satchidananda as is experienced in this plane. Here came the thought that passes beyond thought. So here thought, of course, we know is the first stir. The creative vibration, impulsion. So that is the thought which passes beyond thought. You can't capture it in any form of speech or music or rhythm or anything. You can't capture it. It goes beyond all the rhythms that can be captured or that can be expressed through a mantra or voice or speech or anything. And Mother describes this very beautifully, why it is so. So she says our speech cannot express the supermind. The reason is when she gives a very beautiful example, like when we see something, we see a totality. Like, if any of us is seeing the room, we are seeing everything together, or whatever place our eyes fall. Now, if you have to describe it, can you just say that I am seeing everything together? You have to say, okay, I see a wall and I see a wall on the side, I see so and so, I see a bed, till you come nearer and nearer, or any which way. 100 ways we can describe it. But we can't describe everything together because human speech is limited. That's why it is so difficult. When Sri Aurobindo was asked, is Savitri the supramental? He says no. But it is the highest over mind that is possible. You can't. Supermind by its nature cannot. In fact, Mother says, our speech is not yet ready. But between them, they used to communicate like that. See how, when Mother and Sri Aurobindo would be together, sometimes they would not even speak a word. Not even thought. It's just like a feeling, and Sri Aurobindo would get the full thing. And his reply would be taking all that into account. Maybe a word or two words. And Mother says that if somebody heard her speak, he would think that it makes no sense. One of them was when she just had a feeling, will it happen this time? And Sri Aurobindo goes through all the possibilities and he says yes. That's it. So everything is taken into consideration. So that is the supramental communication. But we are far from it. Here came the thought that passes beyond thought. Hear the still voice which our listening cannot hear. Even the inner ear, the subtle ear is not tuned to that. The knowledge by which the knower is the known. So this is the power with which the divine knows himself. I mean, he knows himself, of course. But how does he know himself? There must be some power or some kind of method of knowing. So it is that power by which he knows himself. The love in which beloved and lover are one. That is why when it is said that, oh, divine punishes so and so, it is meaningless in that state. Because there is no another. You can't say he punished himself. There is no another. It's the divine himself. That's why in the Gita you have 3 places where Shri Krishna knocks at the doors of the supermind. One of them is when he shows his Vishwarup. But you see that everything is going to its source and emerging out of that great womb. Or when it speaks of, I am the Vyakta, I am the Avyakta. So these are places where you see that the Gita is lifted to such heights. But they are very just 3 or 4 cryptic verses. Not the rest of it is largely at another level. Mm-hmm. So here we have the love where now when the divine loves us, he does not love us as somebody else. He loves us as himself. We are not others for him. And repeatedly in the agenda you will see this expression of the mother that people think this body, that body, but it's one body. She never looked at it. She says, how does it matter whether it's this body or another body? All bodies are one body. All bodies are one there is one substance. One unity. She repeatedly speaks about it. One consciousness. So we can see.
We are all her body.
All her body. Actually, this is the truth. All our journeys are her journey in us.
Yes.
Which is so liberating. And in each one she is journeying in her way. There is a different experience. That's how Sri Aurobindo describes what is the goal of creation. At one place he speaks of unity in diversity. And at another place he says like the each drop of honey tasted the honey, whole of honey in the honeycomb. So that's why you see Matri Mandir outer cover is like that, honeycomb and the double layer where each is as if tasting. That's how you can physically reproduce it. So the love in which beloved and lover are one. So this difference, seeming difference, is only to augment the delight of oneness. At that level, that is the experience. It is the delight of oneness which is being augmented by a seeming. It's not different, but a seeming as if there is another aspect which is expressing in this way. But down below, these aspects fight. All stood in an original plenitude, hushed and fulfilled before they could create. Now you mark these words, fulfilled. So this is the original state before creation.
Before creation. Yes.
So everything has been already prefixed, pre-decided, predetermined in a certain sense. This fulfilled is the original blueprint, if you like, or the white print. And therefore everything will tend towards it. You can't just help it. Because this is the original print within us which is drawing us. The glorious dream of their universal acts Here was engendered the spiritual birth. Here again there is a beautiful passage of the mother in Collected Works, Volume 3, where she speaks of for us what it means, this true spiritual birth. Actually, it will make us escape from death. Constantly, there is a constant change which is following the rhythm of the universal self. So, every moment, these are words, we are using word moment like that, where time tends to stop. But every moment, the whole universe is being recreated, right down to the physical, but it's not able to follow that rhythm. The moment it follows that rhythm, that's what she used the word deathless state. So this spiritual birth is not just about being reborn in the spirit like initiation, but this is the supreme resurrection. Mother has used the word resurrection. Here close the finite scroll to the infinite. So once you are in that realm, effort is gone. Before that, there is a crawl, labor, struggle, the mind trying to know, the life trying to live according to this law or that law, this way or that way. All this is gone because now we are in the realm of the infinite. 1,000 roads leaped into eternity. So this is the Sahasrara, the 1,000 rays of the sun which are returning towards the parent. Or singing ran to meet God's veilless face. The veils of mind, life and body are gone. All the God's veils which he wears. The known released him from its limiting chain. So we have to be released not only from ignorance but also from knowledge. So then we have the utter infinity of the one. Then knowledge and ignorance both become close cousins who fulfill the work. He knocked at the doors of the unknowable. Thence, gazing with an immeasurable outlook. See, this known released him from its limiting chain. It's very interesting. It reminds me of a little story. How Sri Aurobindo once says that how he received a help from various sources, but one of them was one sadhu. He used to, it was his routine to come all the way to Pondicherry. Sri Aurobindo was in the guest house then, before the mother's physical coming, permanent coming. And he would come, stay for some time outside, then he would go circumambulating all the way to Tiruvannamalai. And then he would stay there for some time. Then again he would come circumambulating. Means he is lying on the road, getting up, lying on the road like that. So people used to think he is a madman. The difference between madman and realized man is sometimes very little. The sane people of the world are the problem. They won't let new things emerge. Anyway, this is an aside. So, what happened is that one day suddenly, and Sri Aurobindo says that time I was just waiting. Sri Aurobindo is waiting, something will happen as is he surrendered and waiting. So this man suddenly came inside and started running up the stairs to the place where Sri Aurobindo is sitting. Before anybody could stop him, he reaches all the way, and Sri Aurobindo's cup of tea was on the table and some disciples sitting in front of him. He picked the cup, put it like this and ran away before the disciples would beat him. This is my addition in brackets. So Sri Aurobindo smiled. It was the Divine Mother's way of giving him a sign. Empty it completely. And Mother experienced that when she comes to Sri Aurobindo, where she has built a very vast system based on her realizations. Can we imagine what her realizations were? And she sits at Sri Aurobindo's feet and she says, while her husband kept on discussing, she said, I had no interest in this. And she's sitting at his feet and slowly all that construction goes away.
He was emptying my mind.
Yes. And next day she writes a prayer.
Without even her asking.
Yes, without even her asking. She says, I am like a newborn child. The Divine Mother becomes a child. So, that's the state you have to go through. Thence gazing with an immeasurable outlook, one with self's inlook into its own pure vast. There is no outlook that way. You are looking within, like if we have to pay our attention to some part of the body where there is a pain, how do we pay attention? We don't say there is the pain. We may point out, but how do we know? Because within us we know there is the pain. So this in-look, which is an outlook. So the outlook, because the whole creation is within you, cosmic consciousness. He saw the splendor of the spirit's realms, the greatness and wonder of its boundless works, the power and passion leaping from its calm, the rapture of its movement and its rest, and its fire sweet miracle of transcendent life. So he is able to see the splendors and he experiences as if this is actually within him. He looks within and discovers that what else is there which is going to come. The million pointing undivided grasp of its vision of one same stupendous all. This is holy. The one stupendous all. He becomes many, plays with many colors. Even in mud and mire, people are very worried, no? Holy day they are put into the kichad, mud. There also you may be smeared with the worst things, yet it is Krishna. So this is the symbol of the one playing with the all. It is not a recommended thing. It just as a symbol it is fine. Not to be actually done because that is a distortion of a deep truth. We should get the truth and cast out the husk. So now we only hold the husk and forget the truth. So this is what he is experiencing there. Its inexhaustible acts in a timeless time. Now the only way you can explain it, describe it is through paradoxes. A space that is its own infinity. How can space? It's the meeting of the finite and the infinite. Meeting of the time and the timeless. So that's the border. That's why it is being described like that. A glorious multiple of one radiant self. It is one self, but it's become many. Answering to joy with joy, to love with love. All there were moving mansions of God bliss. This is what he wants to create upon earth. This will be the fulfillment of earthly life. When Mother was asked this question, that when people are not nice to us, when they, hate us, so we should love them, isn't it right? Buddha has said so. It's in Dhammapada. Mother says, yes, but before that at least learn to return love with love. Hate with love is much later. People don't even do that. So she says so beautifully. So, but in this world there is no other response. Sri Aurobindo speaks of the supramental love. He tells to Dilip, you think that supermind is all austere and blank like the way you understand? There is an intensity of supramental love which human love cannot even imagine. There is a supramental ananda, that bliss and that love. But of course you have to come out of this. It's not possible. The two cannot be together. So, otherwise there will be an explosion. Eternal and unique, they lived the one. Their forces are great outbursts of God's truth, not separate in themselves. Each force knows itself. That oneness is always there behind. It's not forgotten. And objects are its pure spiritual shapes. Spirit no more is hid from its own view. All sentience is a sea of happiness, and all creation is an act of light. So this was asked to Sri Aurobindo that will evolution stop with the supermind? He says no, evolution will never stop because it's an unending perfection. So what will be the difference? He says big difference. Right now it is from ignorance to knowledge, from darkness to light, from bondage to freedom. Then it will be from light to greater light, from freedom to greater freedom. From one shore of infinity to another shore of infinity. From freedom to greater freedom, from joy to greater joy. It's there. He says that's how evolution will be. No more from like now the struggle, pain, all this will be gone. But divine is infinite, so the expression of divine will be infinite. Out of the neutral silence of his soul, he passed to its fields of puissance and of calm, and saw the powers that stand above the world, traverse the realms of the supreme idea, and sought the summit of created things and the almighty source of cosmic change. All this he beholds in a single sweep of vision. There, knowledge called him to her mystic peaks, where thought is held in a vast internal sense. This internal sense is very interesting. It reminds me of creative artists, at least those who write. They speak of a phase of brooding. So if you ask them that, what are you going to write? They say, I don't know what I'm going to write. So still, I'm just brooding on the idea. What is the idea? Maybe idea of love, maybe idea of freedom. It could be any idea. This idea, they go through a phase of gestation. When they're just brooding on the idea, it's like it's a meditation actually. Then one day it bursts forth in the form of a series of thoughts and book or essay or poem, it doesn't matter what. At another point, the same idea will express itself in a very different way, it's holding the same truth. So that's how this is, where it broods upon itself before it bursts forth, where thought is held in a vast internal sense. And feeling swims across a sea of peace, no more turbulence, and vision climbs beyond the reach of time, an equal of the first creator seers. So we have this, of course, from the Indian mythology. We have the 7 seers who each of them is consulted by the creator for something or the other, like somebody for the movement of the stars and fiat of destiny, another for the something else. So they are the 7 seers. So he becomes completely identified with these seers, meaning thereby for anything now which has to come into creation, he is a privy to the consultation, or his wish carries a meaning even for the creator. It's like, of course, wish is a way of saying what he wills is like accepted by the creator as part of the scroll. That's why when Sri Aurobindo says, up till now there has never been a single wish of mine which has not been fulfilled. This is the meaning, because it is bound to, he becomes first of the creator seers, an equal of the first creator seers, accompanied by an all-revealing light. Just to, in Indian thought, that's what is known as the Gotra. Very often, you'll see this word coming. Now, nobody uses it, but Gotra. What is the Gotra? Gotra is the original Rishi with whom we are identified. So that lineage takes up the work which that original Rishi has taken, and everybody, tries to fulfill it, takes it to its utmost culmination. Of course, the real meaning got lost. That's a different story. Accompanied by an all-revealing light, he moved through regions of transcendent truth, inward, immense, innumerably one. So that's why there you have the key to synthesis and harmony. So there you don't have opposition between, let's say, democracy and dictatorship. You see that both hold within themselves a subtle truth. And in the divine, both are reconciled. So there is nobody who gives more freedom than the divine. But it's equally true that he always holds the last shot. So in a way, ultimately it will be what he has willed. So in the divine, freedom to choose, and the absolute compulsion in things, the dictator, they are fused and become one. So there is no such quarrel between capitalism and communism. All these things which we quarrel here with the mind, this or that, they are resolved in that state where they are no more opposite. They change and enter into their original sense, original plenitude. So innumerably one. Their distance was his own huge spirit's extent. So it is Brahman which extends itself as space, and Brahman, when it moves, there is time. So both originate from the one Brahman. That's why you can never catch it with time. That's how it is described. That It is near you, it is far from you, it is outside you, it is within you. Tade jati, tanne jati, tad dure, taduvantiki. Because it's everywhere. But here they are not saying it is everywhere. That is there. But also there is a sense of space. So it is this which becomes space. It is this which becomes time. So he is in that original state of, and it will continue further. Their distance was his own huge spirit's extent, delivered from the fictions of the mind. This is near, that is far. So when we impose these things on the Divine Mother and her ways, we are acting foolishly. Time's triple dividing step baffled no more. So you have the Trikal Drishti. You see all things. It is said, I don't know where it is written, but it is believed that, it is generally not believed, obviously somebody knows, it's recent, that Sri Aurobindo knew all that is going to happen and somewhere he documented it. Now that diary, it seems, is missing, but I don't know. I mean, surely somewhere he has obviously seen. Some of them we find in records of yoga, very cryptically. One of the seeing is about Europe, for example. It's very powerful. Mother says, time has not yet come. A child shall destroy her. There are such seeings which are going beyond the past, present, future.
Yes.
When Mother said India is free, she didn't say India will be free. India is free. Or when India and Pakistan will become one. Now when, how, that is a different thing. That time will unfold. But in this vision you see the three together. Triple time vision. It's inevitable and continuous stream. So all this we say in our ignorance, oh, he did this, therefore this happened, cause and effect. But it's not like that. It is because we are caught in the flow and flux of time at a given moment and we don't know anything further, more than the tip of our noses. So that's why we use these terms. Here he is using the word inevitable. Its inevitable and continuous stream, the long flow of its manifesting course, was held in spirit's single wide regard. So when a disciple asked the mother, so does it mean that we have nothing like free choice? She said there is a plane in which all this is seen together. So she was asked then, what is the individual's role? She said you can shorten it or prolong it, that's all. You can only play with time, because you're in the realm of time. But you cannot change that decree, which is already there, the inevitable decree. Few more lines then possibly. A universal beauty showed its face. Of course, Sri Aurobindo and the mother's face. The invisible, deep-wrought significances, here sheltered behind forms, insensible screen. So, something you could sense, like when one looks into Sri Aurobindo's eyes, there is a feeling that you are entering into infinity. Two lotus pools of infinity. Look into mother's eyes, infinity is pouring itself upon you. So concentrated. That's how people say that when they were in the presence of Sri Aurobindo, it seemed that anything could happen and everything could happen, and they felt like so much, like vast freedom. When mother would enter, they would feel so concentrated, as if they were just watching what's wrong and what's not yet open, what should open and what has not yet been offered, just a presence. And so much so, there used to be a joke, and we hear in 12 years, that they are all sitting together, Sri Aurobindo on his bed and some of these disciples, somebody is even reading the newspaper and they are chatting. Suddenly Sri Aurobindo would adjust himself on the cot and say, Mother is coming, Mother is coming. Everybody, oh, Mother is coming. Keep repeating, Mother is coming. And then Mother comes and says, so, what is happening? What were you discussing? They're all quiet. Then Sri Aurobindo would say, they were asking if there is justice in the world. This is one of the conversation I remember. Sri Aurobindo said, justice in the world. Sri Aurobindo's remark, just before mother's coming. Sri Aurobindo said, justice in the world, looking at the world, it doesn't look like there is justice in the world. It's a casual remark, which is about, when mother comes and Sri Aurobindo says that, they were asking whether there is justice in the world. Of course there is justice. It changes meaning. You think you can go about doing anything, it will boomerang, and then you suddenly see the change. Mahashakti and power. I mean, if mother says justice will start happening, that is the beauty of her words. Even if there is no justice, if she says there is justice, all the powers of justice has to say, oh my God, we are quiescent, we are sleeping, we might as well start working. Because now Divine Mother has said there is justice. So, the play of the two is so beautiful. It's like, now some people, sometimes they look at it as contradiction. There is no contradiction. It is like when Sri Aurobindo told the mother, he was just telling her factually, look, this is how it is. Oh, is it so? Okay, there is justice in the world. Now the moment she uttered there is justice in the world, means that things begin to change. So, and so Sri Aurobindo is smiling. So this is how it is. Here, sheltered behind form's insensible screen, uncovered to him their deathless harmony, and the key to the wonder book of common things. Everything is there, even the commonest of things. She speaks about the supramental experience where even the bathtub and the water from the tap, she experiences it as part of the supramental creation harmony. In their uniting law stood up revealed the multiple measures of the upbuilding force, the lines of the world geometer's technique, the enchantments that uphold the cosmic web, and the magic underlying simple shapes. Classic example is Matri Mandir. How to conceive, a place like that? You see the difference. It's not just about the physical space. I don't know whether somebody has been or not. I've been to Bahai Temple in Greater Kailash, Delhi. Nice, lotus and all. It's one of those places which are focused when you go to Delhi. But inside there is nothing. I went, sat, anticipating I should feel something. I even started the mantra to experience something. But nothing. It's like a, vacant empty space. Beautifully made, if you see it from afar. But Matri Mandir, the moment you come near and when you enter, it's a powerful, almost everybody I have met, they say, their silence speaks. We never knew silence could be so concentrated. So that's the beauty of that, space. So this is the world geometer's technique. Why? Because even Vishwakarma could not conceive what she has conceived and given to Roger Hanger. No wonder there were so much problems on the design that even, all the conflicts.
I'm very happy to say that I've conducted a number of interviews with B. And B is one of the primary workers of the Matri Mandir. He discusses the building of the ramps. He discusses the glass and the gold that are on the outside of the Matri Mandir. And he brings to life all of their work over 40 years. There'll be a number of interviews with him.
Wow. So we can stop with just these 3 lines because they are fitting in. On peaks where silence listens with still heart to the rhythmic meters of the rolling worlds, he served the sessions of the triple fire. So this triple fire, the different people I'm sure would hold different views about it. My simple take is going by the Kathopanishad and consistency of thought. The triple fire is the physical, vital and the mental fires. All the creation that is going on, from there you can govern, you can grant whatever you want to grant. I mean, you are the Hota, you are the leader of the march of the sacrifice happening in all the 3 worlds. So we'll stop here. Silence and the rim of 2 continents. And continue next week.